Namaste, everybody. Welcome to Vedanta Life Academy. I'm Swami Chidekananda. I'll be your host this evening. Today we have a fascinating topic we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at a pilgrimage, sacred pilgrimage. One of the things that many of you may have not had a chance to do is take a pilgrimage this last year and this year. So we're going to actually take you on a pilgrimage this time. So before we begin any pilgrimage, we're going to open up with a chant. And if you know the chant, you can chant along with me. Om Asuto Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Avir Avir Maeti Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahinityam Tenamam Pahinityam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to mortality. Light us through and through, and guide us evermore with thy loving presence. Om, peace, peace, peace. So today we have the pleasure of having Swami Chidekananda be our host, to be our guide in this sacred pilgrimage. What brought about this was I felt that there are many people who you may have gone to, seen some of these sites that are associated with Sri Ramakrishna. And there's a number of you that probably haven't had the opportunity to go to, say, Kolkata and see some of the actual places. So we thought, you know what would be nice is to take you on a little guided tour, because probably for most of us, we haven't had a chance to go on a pilgrimage for a long time. And then as you go, explain some of the things as if you're going on a real tour itself, a real pilgrimage itself. So this is what this talk is meant for. And I'd like to, what we're going to do is we're going to have them discuss, and then if there's any time, we'll have a little bit of a Q&A session at the end. Swami Chidekananda was initiated by Swami Swahananda. He joined in Hollywood, in the Vedanta side of Southern California. And then he actually come to India for all what they call PPTC, Post Probationary Training Center. And then he was here for the seminary, the training center. He came back to Los Angeles, where he served as a sevak for Swami Swanji. And then he, after sannyas, he stayed in India, and he's been there, I think, for about 7 years. I believe about 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years.
And he's been the city editor of the Prabhuta Bharta magazine. It's the, I believe it's the first English magazine, the first English journal that Swami Vivekananda, during his time, it was started during that time. And Swami Chidekananda has written a series of articles on Sri Ramakrishna and the inner pilgrimage, about six or seven articles that have been published in the Vedanta Keshari, another English publication. So today we welcome Swami Chidekananda and welcome him and thank him and on this guided tour that you're about to take. Welcome, Swamiji.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste, everybody. Namaste. So today we're going to go on a pilgrimage to some of the places visited by Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar. And actually, before I get into that, just wanted to quickly get into the importance. What's the importance of pilgrimage in our spiritual life? So when I was in training center, one brahmachari asked one of our acharyas, Maharaj, can God be seen? Can we see God like Sri Ramakrishna saw him? And the acharya, who's now in the West, he said, yes, God can be seen. He was like a baseball coach, football coach. Yes, God, Sri Ramakrishna saw him, and so can you. All you have to do, and then he quoted from the Kathopanishad, Esha sarveshu bhuteshu guro atmana prakashate drishyate tu agraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhihi. So yes, God is in the heart, and you can see him. All you need is sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhihi, All you need is a subtle mind. So all the brahmacharis left then thinking, okay, what if we don't have the subtle mind? So that's the purpose of pilgrimages. It's like what we talked about last year when I gave a talk on pilgrimage. It's like a place where it's a condensed sattva is there, and it's in the atmosphere, and all we need is the password to download into our hard drive. So in order to get the password, two things are necessary: knowledge about the place, and faith, vishwash in Bengali. So what about, we were talking about when we think of places of pilgrimage, we think about Kashi, Vrindavan, and other places like that, typically. But what about places Sri Ramakrishna visited? Are those places of pilgrimage as well? So Shri M, the compiler, the writer of the Gospel of, or the Kathamrita in Bengali, he lived close to the place where Sri Ramakrishna's elder brother, Ram Kumar, had started a Sanskrit school. Many years after Sri Ramakrishna had left his body, M would go to work every day. And on his way to work, he would pass by Sri Ramakrishna's elder brother's school. And when he would pass by his elder brother's school, with deep reverence, he would make pranams. One day, one of his students was with him, and as he was passing by Sri Ramakrishna's elder brother's house and making pranams, at that time, his student asked him in Bengali, "Kano eta korchen? Ki labh? Why are you making these pranams? What's the point?" Then M, in a choked voice, said, "Anybody who walks down this street will become a yogi." So today, we're not only going to walk down that street, but we're going to enter into the building, go upstairs, and see, touch, and feel the actual images that Sri Ramakrishna himself worshipped. So with this, I ask, let's all come with us, and let's all begin this journey. And let's just go to the next slide. Okay. Okay, so now we're going from India, and we're going to San Diego. We're going to San Diego, to the Vedanta Society of San Diego, to pick up Swami Harinamananda, who has not been to India probably since 2010. So I thought, okay, he's not coming, so let's come here. Let me come and pick him up, and you're all welcome to come and join. So this is the San Diego Center right there, and Maharaj is sitting there right now. So now we're about to go pick him up.
We are, Sandy, for those that don't know, we're very sort of about 50 minutes away from the Pacific Ocean.
And now we're going to take a flight. Where are we going to take a flight? Halfway around the world to Kamarpukur, India. So now we're in Kamarpukur. Okay, let's stop here. Now, what we've done actually, like Swami Harinamananji mentioned, we've done intensive research on the places Sri Ramakrishna visited. And now we're breaking it down. So this, where we see Sri Ramakrishna's life in Kamarpukur, he was born on February 18th, 1836. And from February 18th, 1836 to the end of 1852, we've drawn this boundary. He spent basically nearly almost all of his life within this boundary. This is Deragram, where his father originally came. He walked from there to Kamarpukur. And all of his spiritual experiences, his getting his Upanaya thread, everything basically within his first 16 years took place within this boundary. We don't have time to go. Maybe in a future presentation, we'll talk about that. But today we're going to move on. So now let's go to the year 1850. So Sri Ramakrishna's father passed away in 1841, 1842, when he was only about 5 or 6 years old. Then his family was in straitened circumstances. So his eldest brother, Ram Kumar Chattopadhyay, was trying to make a living, trying to help support the family. He has a Sanskrit education. So he was a Sanskrit teacher, and also he did pujas. So he decided in 1850 to go to Kolkata and try his luck at starting a Sanskrit school in Kolkata. In the end of 1852, he came back. At that time, Sri Ramakrishna was about 16 years old, and he took Sri Ramakrishna back with him, back to Kolkata. So that was the beginning of a new stage in Sri Ramakrishna's life. Let's go. So let's stop here. So, okay, now you can see this is Kamarpukur. This is Kolkata. So
Can you speak a little louder? Some are asking, just a little bit louder.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you? Okay, very good. Okay, so now we're in. So this is the distance between Kamarpukur and Kolkata is 95 kilometers, which is about 60 miles. So they basically walked there all the way there. This represents the new stage of Sri Ramakrishna's life, from January 1st, 1853 to 31st May, 1855. So in this stage, I've drawn a boundary here. This is known as the area of Jhamarpukur. And Sri Ramakrishna's brother started a Sanskrit school here, and he was trying to teach Sanskrit to the students. Sri Ramakrishna was not interested in that. As we know, he was not interested in a bread-winning education. So then his brother thought, okay, what can we do? So he arranged, his brother, Sri Ramakrishna his younger brother knew puja. So he arranged, there's a series of homes here. And Sri Ramakrishna, every day in the morning time, he was at that time a young 16, 17 years old, known as Choto Bhattacharya. That's what they used to call him. He would go to each room, each of these places in the morning time and do puja, Nitya puja. Interestingly, there's next to Ramkumar's Sanskrit school, there was a friend of his, and his name was Devan Chatterjee. Devan Chatterjee, he actually funded Ramkumar's Sanskrit school. And he, in his own home, he had an image of Krishna and Radha. And Sri Ramakrishna used to go to that home every day and do puja to it. Then he would go to Digambar Bar Mitra's house. That was his morning routine. So today, that Krishna and Radha image that was in Devan Chatterjee's house, that's no longer there. That's now in Ramkumar's Sanskrit school, which is no longer there, which is now, it's called Shamsundar Temple. This is the Sanskrit school, and which is now a temple. This is where Ramkumar conducted his Sanskrit classes. And now we're going inside the temple. And this is the image of Radha and Krishna, which Sri Ramakrishna worshipped. And it's being worshipped every day. And one thing that you come to understand when you visit these places, not just read, not just research, but when you just go inside, what you actually see, in Bengali, there's one word, Jagrata, awakened. So it's the experience of the local community who live here that this becomes their all in all, that these deities are very awakened. They've been worshipped by an incarnation, and they have, just like Bhavatarni Kalima, they have special powers. And so they become, in that local community, whatever problems they face, they come running to Krishna and Radha, and they get them solved. Next we go, I mentioned Digambar Mitra's house. He was a wealthy Jamindar, and he had a home which seemed like a mile long. It's really interesting when we think about it. We talk about Swami Chidekananda, when he came from India to the West, how much luxury he had seen. But Sri Ramakrishna, coming from a poor village in Kamarpukur, and then coming to these really huge houses, I mean, it's hard to describe. This is a picture taken by Mahendranath Jani, I think of New Jersey. When he came in 2015 with a group of students. I got it from the internet, but we're just trying to get some type of an approximation. And this doesn't even do justice to how large the house is. This house actually was partitioned. Otherwise, it used to go down for another block or two. So you can just imagine these large, wealthy mansions that Sri Ramakrishna would visit and go and do puja. This is the inside of the house. Am I able to be heard, Swami Harinamaji?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now we're in for a special treat. And why I say this is that even if you lived in Kolkata and even if you visited Jamalpur, you would not be able to go upstairs and see this because we're sadhu, so we can see it. This is the Shalagram Shila that Sri Ramakrishna actually worshipped for 2.5 years. And again, you can see that I'm not an expert in this, but those who have seen this Shalagram and who can tell, they say this is very awakened. And some say he's like a baby Krishna when Yashoda looked into Krishna's mouth and she saw the entire world. So like that, he's like kind of like a bacha baby with his mouth open. That's another thing too that we see, that when Sri Ramakrishna would go and worship these images, he had a different type of bhav. The same bhav that his mother Chandramani Devi had. We call it Ghore Loke bhav. Ghore Lok means mane nijer lok, one's own relative, one's own intimate companion. And so Sri Ramakrishna, if you see, he had this type of relationship with all the deities that he worshipped. He would address them as Twi. In the Kathamrita, in the Bengali Kathamrita, we'll talk about this later on, whenever Sri Ramakrishna talks to Bhavatarni Kalima, he doesn't use the word apni, which is used in Bengali to address a senior. Neither does he use the word tumi, which is used to address an equal. He always uses the word twi. So now we're going to have a trivia question. We're going to keep this a little bit interactive. If you know, you can probably give it in the chat box, and maybe Swami Harinamaji will give a special prize, whoever gets the most correct answers at the end of the presentation. What is the name of the first Kali image which Sri Ramakrishna had worshipped in Kolkata? How many thinks it's Bhavatarni Kalima? Raise your hand. Okay. So the answer is Tantani Kalima. She was in the neighborhood when Sri Ramakrishna came to Jamalpur, and she has a really interesting history about her. At that time, this place where Sri Ramakrishna is living, Jamalpur, let's go back to the year 1705. Oh, I see some people raise their hands. Okay, that was just like a rhetorical question, because actually I would take your answer, but I would take your question, but we just don't have time, so sorry about that.
They got it right. A few people
Okay.
got it right.
A few people, okay. So just keep track of that, and then we'll see whoever gets the most right answers at the end. We'll keep a tally. Okay, so Tantani Kalima, let's go back to the year 1705. At that time, this place, Jamalpur, was like a jungle, and dacoits were there. And they used to even do what you call Narabali, which is human sacrifice, sometimes to the Divine Mother. So what happened was, in 1705, one brahmachari named Udoy Narayan Brahmachari, he had a dream by the Divine Mother to make a murti and worship her there in Jamalpur. So in this location, he made this image called Tantani Kalima. He did puja of the image, and he attained perfection through that. So this image is considered what you call, there's two types of Kali images. One is Shakti Pit, which they say like Kali Ghat, They say the Divine Mother's body fell into 51 pieces all over India and Bangladesh. And this is called a Siddhi Peeth. It's not a Shakti Peeth, but if you go there, the deity is very awakened. And if you go there, if you pray sincerely, your desires will be fulfilled. So that was in 1705. Now let's fast forward 100 years, 1805. At that time, a Brahmin in the neighborhood named Shankar Ghosh had a dream by the Divine Mother. She said, I'm not being taken care of very well. You build me a temple and you also take over charge and you maintain me. So having that dream, he decided to take up the responsibility of maintaining the Divine Mother. This is an image of the old structure, which Sri Ramakrishna probably visited. And you can see next to this temple, there's a Shiva temple. Because wherever Shakti is, Shiva will also be there. And this is the image, the present structure today. You can see it's a little bit larger. Now, how did Tantani Kalima get that name Tantani Kalima? Because like I said, in 1705, when she was built, there were many dacoits in the area. So as a result, sometimes the dacoits would leave. So then the inhabitants living there would be doing their daily business. But then when someone received news that the dacoits are coming back, they would ring a bell. Somebody would ring a bell, tong, 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 to warn everybody to leave the area that the dacoits are coming back. So that's how she got the name Tantani Kalima. Now, what is Sri Ramakrishna's relationship with Tantani Kalima? Every day in the evening time, he had his morning routine. In the evening time, when he stayed in Jamalpur, he would go and do worship and sing songs to the Divine Mother. He would sing many songs and he would go into ecstasy and cry to her. So I'm just going to play a little bit. We'll just play. We can imagine that. You can imagine we're back in 1705 and the dacoits are about to come. So the type of drums and bells they used to ring. Another thing about Tantani Kalima. See, Sri Ramakrishna, the one thing we have to realize, I'm always emphasizing this point again and again, we call it Ghore Lokir Bhav. Ghore Lokir Bhav, that you're not just worshiping an image, you're not just worshiping her as Nirguna Brahman, Saguna Brahman. You have a special intimacy relationship, one's own family member, one's own relative. So like that, even when Sri Ramakrishna left Jamalpur at the end of May 1853, he always kept in contact with Tantani Kalima. For example, you may read in the Kathamrita that when Keshab Sen had fell ill, Sri Ramakrishna offered dab chini, green coconut with sugar, to the Divine Mother. Which mother was that? No, it was not Bhavatarni Kalima. It was Tantaniya Siddheshwari Ma. And the reason why I was thinking about it, why did he not just offer it to Bhavatarni Kalima? Because probably Keshab Sen lived in this jurisdiction. So that might be one reason why he did that. Another thing is that, before we leave this, when he was in Shampukur Bhati, between September 30th, 1885 and December 10th, 1885, on the Kali Puja day, he asked Master Mahoshai, at that time he was not in the Kali temple in Dakshineshwar, so he asked Master Mahoshai to go to Tantani Kalima and get some prasad. So Master Mahoshai took a bath, he walked barefoot, he got prasad, he gave it to Sri Ramakrishna in Shampukur Bhati, and when Sri Ramakrishna got the prasad, he took off his chappals, and with great reverence, he put the prasad to his head and then took a little bit. So now our next trivia question, which you can reply by chat. What was the name of the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna whose family owned and managed the temple of Tantani Kalima?
We have some answers here.
Okay. You just keep track, Swami Harinamanji, and afterwards we'll see who gets the most right answers.
Well, I'm not going to keep track, but
Okay.
you want
Okay.
me to
What's
read
the
the answer?
what is the name? What is the name they gave?
Swami Subodhananda?
Yes, Swami Shubodh. Yes, correct. So Swami Shubodhananda's family, Shankar Ghosh, was his great grandfather who had the vision of Sri Ramakrishna. So he was born in the year 1868. So when he first came and met Sri Ramakrishna, normally when Sri Ramakrishna would meet one of his direct disciples, he would ask him where he's from, whose family. So when Shubodhananji told Sri Ramakrishna that he came from uh, Shankar Ghosh's house, he told him in Bengali, তোর বাড়ি আমি অনেকদিন গিয়েছিলাম তোমার জন্ম আগে. So before you were ever born, I went to your house many times. So it's really interesting. You can also just see, we get another sense of Sri Ramakrishna's Leela, how his Leela works. He, like, when he goes to a place, it's like even if he's no longer there, he plants seeds, and those seeds in the course of time will fructify. Another interesting thing is that when Swami Shubodhanandaji, one time he wanted to walk barefoot from Kolkata to Kashi. So he made that sankalpa, that determination, but he was feeling a little bit apprehensive. So then Tantani Kalima once appeared to him in a dream and said, "Tui chinta korish na, ami tor sange jabo. So don't worry, I'll be with you." This is Shubodhananji's ancestral home, and today they still maintain the Tantani Kalima temple. Okay, so that's this. We did this from 1852 to uh, from 1852 to the end of May 1855. What's interesting, we went through these places. Even afterwards, you see Swami Vivekananda was born nearby. Swami Brahmananda used to stay here from the age of 5 or 6 with his stepmother's place. Now I'm going to show you something that we've been doing that's really interesting. As Swami Harinamji said, I've been here for the past 7 years as a city editor of Kolkata. So during that time, myself and we have a great research team. There's one Devraj Thakur Mitra, who's from Jhamarpukur, one Dr. Ruchira Mitra, who made a video about Dakshineshwar. We have a great research team. So we've literally gone to over 100 places that Sri Ramakrishna has visited in Kolkata. And here I've just made a simple list of his Antaranga, or his inner devotees. You could see we start from Rani Rashmani and Jan Bazar, and we go all the way up to Pani Ghat. Dakshineshwar is here. We'll be visiting that. Gopalar Ma's house. Swami Brahmananda stayed here. Sharat Maharaj was born here. Shubodhananji was born here. Swamiji was born here. Swami Abhedananji was born here. Turiyananda was born. I don't have it. Turiyananda was born here. Akhandananda stayed here. So it's just really interesting when you look at how his Leela works. When we look at this map, this basically covers his entire, almost most of his life from the June 1855 till he left his body. The only portions it will not cover is when he occasionally went to Kamarpukur or when he went on pilgrimage. Otherwise, all of his life experiences from this period, 1855 to 1886, are covered here. So you can, when you read the Gospel, the Kathamrita, or the Lila Prasanga, the great master, if you learn these things really well, you can just easily visualize and put yourself there. Before I leave this, one other interesting thing, because I've written many articles about this. It's not only Sri Ramakrishna, it's also all of his different disciples. They all have their own life story to tell about how they came into contact with Sri Ramakrishna. Here we went to Golap Ma's house. How did she come into contact with Sri Ramakrishna? She lost her only daughter. She lived in a poor family. Her only daughter had married to one of the Tagore family. She was really wealthy. Her daughter became really wealthy. And she was a source of great pride for Golap Ma. So when she lost her daughter, she was on the verge of insanity. And so we read in the book, They Lived with God, that she literally used to run sometimes from her home, which was like 12 kilometers, all the way to Dakshineshwar in a mad frenzy. Same thing with Gopalarma. We read how sometimes she felt such an urge to meet Sri Ramakrishna that she would run from her own home all the way to Dakshineshwar. Even here we see where Bhairavi Brahmani stayed. So everyone has their own life history. So maybe if in the future we'll explore this further. This is not the time, but it's just more like what we say today. We have the term contact tracing, life mapping. So this is what we've done over the last 7 years. Let's continue. Okay, now we're going to go to Dakshineshwar. Can I just have a raise of hands? How many people have never visited Dakshineshwar? Can you just raise your hand? Okay. So anyways, I want you all to really get ready, because you're going to have a better experience than actually if you go to Dakshineshwar, because Dakshineshwar is very crowded when you go by land, but we're going to go by air. And just, these. Okay, let's pause here. So this is Dakshineshwar, and I've given you all a map. So one of the things we're going to try to aim for is that by the end of this talk, we'll know these places cold. So the next time hereafter, whenever you read the Kathamrita or the Great Master, you'll not only be able to know about the places, you'll be able to visualize, you'll be able to feel, and you'll be able to put yourself there. So I'm just going to go over this again, but just this is the main temple, which houses, you can look on your map if you have it, which houses the Divine Mother. This is called the Garbha Mandir. This is called the Nat Mandir. This is the Radha Krishna Temple. These are the 12 Shiva Temples. This is Sri Ramakrishna's room. This is behind there is where he used to take bath, Chatni Ghat. This is the Kutir Badi, Nahabat. We'll go over this again, just giving a print scan preview for right now. Okay, let's stop here. Now we're at the main temple right now of Dakshineshwar. So this temple structure right here is called Navaratna. What does Navaratna mean? Nava means 9 and Ratna means jewels. So 9 jewels. So Rani Rashmani had it designed in this Navaratna style. And just you can just see, just for those who may or may not know, Sri Ramakrishna is like a rock star in Kolkata. So you can see this big billboard. Who is this of? Can you see in the background right there?
Yeah, Sri Ramakrishna.
Sri Ramakrishna. So it's like in America, we have Michael Jordan. So in Kolkata, we have Sri Ramakrishna. Okay, now the next question, this is another trivia question, and this is more difficult. This is an obscure question. Which temple inspired Rani Rashmani to build the Dakshineshwar temple in Navaratna style? I'll take answers on this one if anybody knows. It's a really hard question. Okay.
There are no answers.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I doubt many.
Here's Kashi Vishwanath.
No. Nice try. No, actually, because the Navaratna is used for not Shiva temples. It's only used for temples of the Divine Mother during that time. So the answer is the Mahanad Kali temple in the Hooghly district. The owner was a relative of Rani Rashmani. So when Rani Rashmani went there, she saw this and she got inspired. And this was the original Kali image in the Mahanad Kali temple. So you can say that she's like the mother of Mother Kali, because through her inspiration, this Dakshineshwar Kali temple came up. So we make our pranams to her because we're actually having darshan. So let's make our pranams to her and ask for her blessings. Again, these all images which we're seeing, having darshan is enough. They said, Swami Swahananji used to say, darshan is enough to get their blessings. You don't have to go there. Now we've entered into the Garbha Mandir of Dakshineshwar. So Shri Ramakrishna, on May 31st, 1855, Shri Ramakrishna and his brother came to Dakshineshwar, the temple opening on Snan Yatra Day. So then his elder brother, Ram Kumar Chattopadhyay, became the pujari for Bhavatarni Kalima. In about March of 1856, his elder brother was getting older, getting feeble in health, and Sri Ramakrishna started developing more and more of an interest in the Divine Mother. So what happened then, that his elder brother taught him to chant the Chandi. He got him initiated into the Shakti mantra. One Kenaram Bhattacharya lives near Shalda. He initiated Sri Ramakrishna into the Shakti mantra. Looking at the image itself, Mother Kali is 33.5 inches high. She's made of something called basalt stone. She's lying on, you can see Shiva. So this Shiva represents Nirguna Brahman. She represents the dynamic aspect of Shakti. So Sri Ramakrishna started worshipping the Divine Mother from about March or April 1856 for a couple of years. Now, one other point to keep in mind that all of you already probably know these stories, that Sri Ramakrishna, when he first came, it was not enough just to worship the Divine Mother. He wanted to experience her. So when he was feeling such an intense yearning at not having her vision, he used to go outside and rub his face on the mud. And also, a sword like this, one day he felt so much in pain and anguish at not having her vision. So he took, this is not the sword, it's now a new sword, but he took the sword and was threatening to cut his own throat. And he was about to do it when the Divine Mother gave that vision to him, which is described in the Lila Prasanga, that he saw waves and waves of light coming at him and overwhelmed him. And in this Garbha Mandir, he saw the entire, everything, every person, every utensil, everything was emanating with consciousness. Like he said, he became overwhelmed. The houses, doors, temples, and everything else vanished altogether, as if there was nothing anywhere. And what I saw was an infinite, shoreless sea of light, a sea that was consciousness. However far and into whatever direction I looked, I saw shining waves, one after another, coming towards me. But he also saw her shining countenance. So Sri Ramakrishna used to sing many songs to the Divine Mother. So we'll play one of his favorite songs, which he sang to the Divine Mother. So that song is very kokono ki ronge thakoma. In Bengali, that means ma, kokono ki ronge thakoma, ma, how many different moods you are in. So Sri Ramakrishna, he not only saw her as all consciousness, Nirguna Brahman, Saguna Brahman, he also saw her as Chotobon, younger sister. He had that level of intimacy with her. That was one of his spiritual practices. He didn't call it a practice, actually. It was just natural to him. Whenever he came across a deity, he didn't look at it. He looked at his own Atmiyalok, own relatives, closer than one's own relative. And the thing about the Divine Mother, she likes, there's a proverb in Bengali, kokono ma, kokono me. So sometimes she likes to be the mother, but at other times, she likes to be the daughter. So in the Great Master, we read that one time he saw Mother Kali, like a small girl, climbing up to the top floor in the Dakshineshwar temple. So from his room, he was like an anxious parent, and he cried out to her, "Okane Jashna, Jashna, Pordbi, don't go up there. You will fall. Come down." And sometimes he would scold her. Like one time he went to Keshab Sen's house, and then like a small girl, she came and she was wearing a really pretty sari, this Varanasi sari, they call it. So she was like showing off. So he could see that. So he said to her, "Hangam Korishnama, chupchap bosho." So don't show off, just sit quietly. So it's a really interesting relationship. Now, there's a deeper meaning for Bhavatarni Kalima being like a younger sister, Chotobon. And to understand that history, let's go back to the year 1847.
You know, we cannot hear any of the music, just to let you know, because we're not hearing any music because you have the headphones on. It's going to your headphone jack, but anyways, that's just for you to know. Otherwise, you just go ahead, just to let you know that the music's not being.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, can I take it off then or no?
But then your headphones will not work.
Okay. Okay, so this is the Jan Bazar residence right here. And this was in 1847. Rani Rashmani stayed here. At that time, she had made a decision to go to Kashi and worship Lord Shiva there. So as she was making preparations and spending lots of money to go there, suddenly the Divine Mother appeared to her in a dream. And he told her, "There's no need to go to Kashi. You can build a temple for me on the banks of the Ganga, and I will accept your worship." So she changed her plans then. So if you want to build a temple, what do you need? You need land, you need a builder, a contractor, architect, and you need somebody to make the murti. So in 1847, 1848, this Mack and Burn architect company she hired, and they were building the temple at that time. Now we have we have some really rare photos that we found. This is a photo taken in 1850 of the Dakshineshwar temple under construction. It was taken by Frederick Fiebig. And you can just see that the temple had already been built by that time. So Rani Rashmani had told them to start building probably in late 1847 or 1848. This photograph was taken in 1850. So you can see that the temple had already been built, the Nat Mandir, the Shiva Temples. What was remaining was the pavement, the courtyard. And also Sri Ramakrishna's room had not been built yet. These are two unknown pictures that we just found last week. And we never saw these pictures before. We got them from the British Public Library. In fact, even there, they just say temple on the bank of the Hooghly River. But these are pictures of Dakshineshwar. In fact, these are the same people in the earlier pictures. So this has not actually been seen before. These are two newly discovered pictures of Dakshineshwar under construction in 1850. And this is right here, the Chatni Ghat. And you can see right next to that, you can see this is now a garden. The garden had not yet been put. And you can see the different Shiva temples. This area right here, behind the Shiva temples, is Sri Ramakrishna's room. But the main point of interest, you can see, because you can't see that today, it said that during the master's time, Dakshineshwar was like a jungle. And you can just see right here, all these trees. You just get a sense of what it's like, because it's not like that anymore, unfortunately. So again, this is where Sri Ramakrishna will later talk about this if we get time. He would come and take bath here on a daily basis. And this is another picture, newly discovered picture. There's 12 Shiva temples. This is the last Shiva temple. Next to this, Sri Ramakrishna's room would be here. Again, it had not yet been built yet. So you can see all the types of trees that were there. So it just gives us insight. It confirms the history. We always read things about what happened in history, but we're never really sure, did it really happen or not? But yes, these are some of the earliest photographs ever taken. And fortunately, Frederick Fiebig took these pictures. Okay, now one of our last trivia questions. Who built the Kali image at Dakshineshwar? Does anyone know the answer? Any raised hands?
So some of the answer, Nabin Bashkar.
Yes. Wow, who said that?
There's just a few people have said that.
Okay, great. Nabin Bhashkar. And this is a rare photograph. He was born in 1806. So in this photograph, he looks like he's probably in his late 40s or early 50s. So this would have been the time, he's born in a poor family in West Bengal. So this would have been the time that this is just my own guess, that when he's building the Dakshineshwar temple, this would have been the time that his photograph was taken. And what's interesting about him is that when he was building the images of Kali, he would do great tapasya at that time. Just like Rani Rashmani, he would sleep on the ground, take havishanna, boiled food only, and be just like a sadhaka. And that was like his worship. And he was a very famous sculptor. So he was very highly sought after by many kings at that time in Bengal and elsewhere. Okay, now the plot even thickens. In 1850 or 18, Rani Rashmani talked to Naveen Bhaskar. At first, he was hesitant to get involved because she belonged to this Koivatra caste, so she was a lower caste. So there was lots of opposition against a lower caste person at that time building a temple where Brahmins would serve. So there was almost like some type of social ostracism at that time. So he was also very hesitant to get involved. But after much persuading, he agreed to do it. So he built his first image in 1849, 1850. And he showed it to Rani Rashmani. But it was too small because given the dimensions of the Dakshineshwar Kali temple, which is 100 feet high and a 46.5 square feet base, it was too small. So what to do about that image? So they put it in this Haidua Guha Kali temple in Hati Bagan. This is the Haidua Kali temple. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, when he would come and visit her, he would always call her Boro Mashi. Why? Because Mashi means sister, Boro means eldest sister. So she's the eldest sister of Bhavatarni Kalima. So we can again, we're fortunate to have her darshan. We can also offer our pranams to her, ask her for her blessings. Now, around 1852, Nabin Bhaskar, I'm not sure if it was before that, he decided to go to a quarry and he got one large stone that basalt rock stone. And from that stone, he made two images. The first was of Brahmamoyi Kali. But Rani Rashmani, seeing the two images, she preferred Bhavatarani Kalima to be in the Dakshineshwar temple. So this temple of Brahmamoyi Kali was established in 1853. So this is Brahmamoyi Kali. She's in Varanagore. And Sri Ramakrishna would also come here, and he would make pranams to her, and he would call her Mashi, sister of the mother. Again, we can also make our pranams to her, ask for her blessings. And notice this was in 1853, this temple was established. Both images were established in 1853. And the temple was completed by that time. You saw in 1850, the temple was nearing completion. By 1853, the temple was also completed. So what was the problem then? The problem then was that Rani Rashmani had a pending lawsuit against her eldest daughter's son-in-law for financial mismanagement. So because of this lawsuit, she was unable to establish the temple. In addition to, of course, opposition by the Brahmin caste, because she was a lower caste person. But that's secondary. The main point was the lawsuit. So what did Nobin Bhaskar do? He packed Bhavatarani Kalima in a box and shipped her to Dakshineshwar. So she was just staying Dakshineshwar in a box for almost 2.5 years. Finally, in 1855, Rani Rashmani had a dream where the Divine Mother came to her and told her, look, I'm suffocating in here. Get me out and put me in the temple immediately. I can't take it anymore. So after that dream, Rani Rashmani rushed to the temple. She opened the box and she saw that the Divine Mother was indeed sweating. So she wiped her off and she chose a date. The date was Snan Yatra, May 31st, 1855. So that's the time Sri Ramakrishna came there. So that concludes this part. Now, the next part is actually, we're going to go, do we have time, Hari Namananda? Can we go through some parts of Dakshineshwar?
Go ahead, yes.
Okay. Is it full screen now?
No, you have to go down. There you go. Now it's full screen. Yes.
Okay, does everyone, we sent this map out to you, but anyways, just an overview that this is the map that you all have. So I'm just gonna point this out, compare it with this, and we'll keep going back to this. And our idea is that, you know this map cold. So again, one of my main goals and objectives in doing this is that when you leave this presentation, the next time you pick up the Kathamrita, your reading experience will be forever changed. So let's go over this again. This is the courtyard in Dakshineshwar. That's right here. This is the Nat Mandir, Radha Krishna's temple, the 12 Shiva temples, where they used to wash their plates, right here. Sri Ramakrishna's room is right here. Kutir Bari is here. Nahabat, where Holy Mother stayed, is right here. So we'll go over this again. The Panchavati, where he did his sadhana, is right here. Haspukur, the Goose Pond Lake is right here. Okay, we'll go, don't worry, we'll go through these things again if we have time. Nat Mandir. So now with the Nat Mandir, which is called Dance Hall. So this is where Arati takes place, and the Divine Mother is worshipped in here. So every evening time they have Arati here, and you can see the Divine Mother being worshipped, and she can also see you too. So from here they chant Jaima, Jaima, all the kirtan. When you read in the Kathamrita about jatras being held, plays for the Divine Mother, they would have them held in here. And when they're doing the play, it would be facing the Divine Mother. And so most like the Divine Mother can then see the play. because all these things are actually for her, not for the audience. And it's also in here that in 1861, Bhairavi Brahmani came and she held a conference. She was so charmed by Sri Ramakrishna that she believed him to be an incarnation. So in 1861, 1862, she held a conference at that time, invited all the great scholars of West Bengal and all over India. And two of the preeminent scholars at that time, Vaishnav Charan and Gauri Pandit, and they were going to actually have a debate about whether or not Sri Ramakrishna was an incarnation. And you might remember Gauri Pandit, he could never be defeated in debate. He had that special power, and it talks about it that when he would enter even the Nat Mandir, he would chant Ha Re Re Re, and he would chant it in such a sonorous voice that the Nat Mandir and even the temple would all shake, and the Divine Mother would become very much alive. Then he would sit down, slap his hand, and he could not be defeated in debate. Now, the day of this conference, Vaishnav Charan was running late, and Gauri Pandit was walking with Sri Ramakrishna from his room. His room is over here, and they're walking to the Nat Mandir, where the conference is going to be held. And Sri Ramakrishna decides to go inside the Garbha Mandir and make pranams to the Divine Mother. When Sri Ramakrishna returns, so Gauri Pandit is waiting with the other Pandits here. When Sri Ramakrishna exits the temple, suddenly Vaishnav Charan, who was late for the meeting, he comes. He sees Sri Ramakrishna coming down. He makes salutations to him. And extemporaneously on the spot, he chants a Sanskrit hymn, which delights Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna then goes into Samadhi and he sits on Vaishnav Charan's shoulders. Now, everyone is seeing this take place between them. He sits on Vaishnav Charan's shoulders and blesses him profusely. So everyone's seeing this taking place, including Gauri Pandit. So seeing that, this great debater who has never lost a debate in his life, when they go inside here, Gauri Pandit tells Sri Ramakrishna, I'm not debating him today. There's no way I can beat him in debate today. Then he adds, besides, Vaishnav Charan only says that you're an incarnation. I say that you're the source from which all incarnations come. So that took place here. Next, we're going to go to the Radha Krishna Temple right here. This is the Radha Krishna Temple. Now, what happened here is really interesting. In about August of 1856, the pujari who takes care of Radha Krishna, he would take them to what you call Swayanghor, a resting place. So after puja, after they take their food, the pujari will normally take them to a separate place to take rest. Again, these are not just stone images. To them, they're living. So they're like their own relatives, their own children. So they take them to take rest. So when the priest was carrying the Krishna image, he dropped him, unfortunately. And the foot was broken of the Krishna image. This is the foot that was broken right here. So then everyone was deciding, what should we do? So there was a consensus amongst many of the Pandits at that time, we should immerse the image into the Ganga. But Sri Ramakrishna, again, we talk about, he has that Ghodir Bhav towards this, these images are like his own relatives. So he quickly rushes to Rani Rashmani, and he tells her, when they ask him what they should do, he says, if your son-in-law, Mathur Babu, if he broke his arm, would you get a new son-in-law? No, you would heal his arm and then he continues his duties. So they were very charmed by Sri Ramakrishna's answer. So they said, okay, that's good. So now who's going to mend it? Now you may remember in the great master, Mathur Babu, one of the things he was very impressed by with Sri Ramakrishna, his ability to make images. I think he made an image of Shiva, a small clay image of Shiva, and Mathur Babu was so impressed by it that he took it and he showed it to Rani Rashmani, who was also very pleased and said, looks like we have a worshipper who is awakened. So Sri Ramakrishna himself actually amended this image. And this is a close-up of it. And actually I can just take, because I've gone close up, you can't see it like this. This is where it was broken, but I could not even see this. I could barely see it. This image somehow reveals it. And if you think about it, it's really amazing that 170 years after, it was in 1855, almost 170 years later, it's still in perfect condition. So what happened now with this image then continued to receive worship with Radha up to the year 1895, even after Sri Ramakrishna's passing. In 1895, due to a lot of pressure from the local Brahmins, this image was shifted to a separate room next door where he still receives worship, and a new Krishna image was put there. So that's one incident. Another significant incident which took place in the Radha Krishna temple. The direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna in 1884, about I believe October, I think 1883 or 1884. There's two different dates, so it's a little bit in controversy. Narendranath Swamiji, as well as Bhavanath, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple, they wanted to have a picture of Sri Ramakrishna taken. So what did they do? They hired from the Born and Shepherd's photographer, they hired a devotee who happened to be a photographer there to come and bring his camera. So that day, Sri Ramakrishna was walking into the Radha Krishna temple. He made pranams to Radha Krishna. After making pranams to Radha Krishna, when he's exiting, you can see that the Radha Krishna temple is here. Exiting, what do you see in front of you? You see these Shiva temples in front of you. So these are the Shiva temples you would have seen. As he's seeing them, he suddenly falls into samadhi. He goes into a state of ecstasy. So what does he do next? He's coming out here. He goes and he's standing about right here. They quickly grab an asana. Someone quickly grabs an asana, which is right here, and he sits down. As he's sitting down, he's kind of bending to one side. So the photographer tries to go and tries to like just nudge him a little bit. But when he nudges him, it's like just even slightly touching Sri Ramakrishna's body. It's almost like he automatically, he's so light. He's like a feather that he automatically like flies. He almost like just is so light that you just give a small nudge and it's almost like it lifts by itself. The body lifts by itself. So the photographer became a little bit apprehensive at that time. Then Narendranath told the photographer, hurry up quickly, just take the photo. So the photographer took the photo. They only took one photo. And after he took the photograph, it was a glass plate at that time, as he's bringing the glass plate down, it drops from his hand. But fortunately, this part was still intact. So you could just see it's not the whole glass plate is not there. This part is missing. So just fortunately, his entire body was still intact. Okay, now next we go to the Shiva temples, which is in front. So Sri Ramakrishna, part of his routine, you can see there's 12 Shiva lingas here, and each of them has like a Shiva temples, each of them has a Shiva linga. So it's in the Great Master that one time Sri Ramakrishna went into one of the Shiva temples and he chanted for the Shiva Mahima Stotram, Likati Adigrihitva Sharada Sarvakalam Tat Apitava Gunanam Ishapadam Nayati. And which means that even if the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, were to write forever, she still would not be able to fully describe your greatness. So when he chanted that, light came out from that image and it overpowered him. So we're still in controversy which image it is, but the image closest to Sri Ramakrishna's room, I've seen that image. There's like a light there, a mark of light there, large mark of light. So some say that the experience might have happened there, but Swami Chidekananda says it might have taken place here. So anyways, the experience took place in one of these temples. So those are the 12 Shiva temples. So, you know, it's described that sometimes Sri Ramakrishna's routine in the morning time, he would wake up from his room, he would chant the name of the Lord, he would salute all the pictures, Mother Kali, all the images in his room. He would go and take bath in the Chadni. Then he would come back to his room. He would go make pranams to Bhavatarani Kalima, then to Radha Krishna. Then when he was in fit shape, he would go to all the 12 Shiva temples and make pranams. Next is the Chadni Ghat. Chadni Ghat is right here. Sri Ramakrishna used to take bath. This is an old picture of it. Sri Ramakrishna would take bath here every day. Daily bath he would take here. And this was also the boating dock. So anytime you see that Sri Ramakrishna is going to go anywhere, Bazar or anywhere, he would get picked up from here. There's one incident where Keshav Sen picked up Sri Ramakrishna with a large ship. He also picked him up from here. And this is also where Totapuri, when he first came to meet Sri Ramakrishna, he arrived in this spot. Swami Harinamanji, are we okay with time, or what should we do?
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you just keep going for another 5 minutes?
Okay, we'll just finish up what we can. This is Sri Ramakrishna's room right here. So this is important. We could even end just with this. In the Gospel and the Kathamrita, they use many geographical terminology. The master mentions southeast veranda, north veranda, northeast veranda, west. So where are these places? So actually this runs north. This is south. This is east, and this is west. On this map right here, this is north, south, east, and west. Okay, so Sri Ramakrishna's room is right here. So when they mention the southeast veranda of Sri Ramakrishna's room, what are they referring to? This is actually the end. He would use this to enter into the temple premises. And also when he's exiting the temple premises, he would also come back here. There's one incident here where he's having his hair cut. He's sitting down. Remember that, the southeast veranda. This is the southeast veranda right here. This is Sri Ramakrishna's room. We always read about the lower cot, the upper cot. The lower cot is where he would sit and speak with his devotees, and the upper cot is where he would take rest. This is a picture of how it was in the olden days. You won't see that now. So this will give an idea of what it was like back then. So you can kind of have an idea that most likely when Sri Ramakrishna would sit, he would probably sit in this direction, because this is the entrance where people would come in from, the west semicircular porch. Let's just see that real quickly. This is the west semicircular porch. So whenever anybody usually enters, this is usually the entrance. When Narendranath first came to meet Swamiji, came to meet Sri Ramakrishna, he came from here. Same thing with Master Mahashaya.
And the Ganga is facing the west side, right?
Yeah, the Ganga is facing the west side, right. That's right. So you can see that this is where the semicircular west porch is. This is the Ganga on this side right here. So that's right there. Another thing about this room is that Holy Mother in 1872, she came and she stayed here with Sri Ramakrishna. And it's interesting, when she first came to his room, she was not, she was really she's emaciated, maybe because of the journey. She came to serve Sri Ramakrishna, but it was such a long journey that when she came, she was sick. She was really sick. And Sri Ramakrishna then was feeling really bad, because Mathur Babu, his right-hand man, who would normally take care of these things, he was not there. So he was really worried about her. Who will take care of her? So for that reason, he kept her with him. So most likely he slept on this bed and she slept on this bed. And you could read about her experiences, how she describes how she used to wake up in the middle of the night, or she couldn't even sleep because she would always see him in samadhi, and he taught her a mantra to bring him back down from that state. So she stayed there. She lived in this room with Sri Ramakrishna for about 7 months. Another interesting thing which took place is that I believe 1872, Sri Ramakrishna worshipped her as Shodashi Puja there of the Holy Mother. Falaharini Kali Puja. And it said that approximately she was sitting in this position, and Sri Ramakrishna was worshipping her.
And this just happened, I believe, just a few days ago.
Just a few days ago. And just so we know, Falaharini means what? Phala means fruit. Harini means remover of. So Falaharini Puja, remover of the fruits of karma, both the good and bad karma. The Divine Mother takes it both so that you can get released and get mukti.
And probably here, this is where they say Ramakrishna gave the powers to Holy Mother, or awakened in Sri Sharda Devi to become the Holy Mother, right?
Right. And actually, after he did his sadhana, and that's a good point. After he did his sadhana, he offered all the fruits of all his sadhana during the past 16 years, all the intent at her feet. And he also offered her his japamala at her feet. That japamala which he offered at her feet is now kept at the Kathamrita Bhavan, Shri M's house. And she was sitting on a bench on a cot that's now kept in Bellarmont. And you read about Sri Ramakrishna's spice bag that he used to always keep with him. This is a picture of his spice bag, which is now in Bellarmont. Here's a picture of some of his slippers. So let's just conclude. We can go on and on, but I think we're out of time. So let's just conclude right here. Let's just get the geographical spacing down. This is the west semicircular porch. So when you're reading this, remember this right here. It's facing the Ganga. When you come and visit Sri Ramakrishna, remember Chidekananda ji said last week, you should be a participant, just not a reader. So when you're entering, where will we enter from? We'll enter from here. And when we're leaving, where will we leave from? We'll leave from here. This is called the northeast veranda, and this is the east door exit. So this is normally where people would leave from. And why would they leave from there? Because normally people coming from Calcutta, the main gate is here. So they would go back to the main gate. On this map, Sri Ramakrishna's room is here. So we'll head east. It's right here. So when we're leaving, we'll leave from here. Now, this is the north veranda. So on one occasion, when Sri Ramakrishna first met Swamiji, this is part of his room, but this is like a separate partition. Sometimes he wanted to speak with Swamiji by himself, not in the presence of others. So one time, when Swamiji would usually come, he would bring his friends with him. But Sri Ramakrishna was not interested in meeting his friends. He wanted to meet Swamiji, Narendranath. So they would be sitting in the room, but he would be here with Narendranath. And on one occasion, he says, I know what took you so long to come. I was waiting for so long. So that took place here in this veranda. And today, people sit here and they read the Kathamrita every day. Now, I think we're just going to end with this. This is the northeast veranda. This is where people leave, devotees will leave when they're exiting Sri Ramakrishna's room. But this is the northeast veranda. What's significant about there, let's go here. See it's called the Kuti Bari. Mathur Babu and Rani Roshmani, they used to stay here. And so in the beginning, this is an old picture of the Kuti Bari. So in the beginning, Mathur Babu had some reservations about Sri Ramakrishna. Was he insane, or is he really like a god man? He was not really sure what he was. So one time, he used to smoke, so he's smoking his pipe, and he's just looking at Sri Ramakrishna, who's walking back and forth. He's trying to figure him out. What is he? And then he has this vision. He sees Sri Ramakrishna. He walks on one side, Mother Kali. When he walks this side, it's Shiva. Mother Kali, Shiva. And Mathur Babu like rubs his eyes. It's like, am I having a delusion, or is this really taking place? And after that, he had great faith in Sri Ramakrishna. And you could read about it that whatever he wanted, he became like his caretaker, his guardian, his Ishta Devata. So I think that's about it. I think that's the best. I think it's getting late now, 7:48. I mean, I have other things prepared, but I'll just, what should we do now, Swami Harinamanaji?
So I think this is a good point to
Okay.
transition. I know there's maybe if anybody has questions, you can raise your hand and I can call on you. I know the one question that keeps coming up is that, well, yes, this is being recorded and we'll have it on our www.vedantalifeacademy.com website. And also we're going to try to have it on YouTube as well. But it'll just take us maybe a couple days, a few days, but it'll be on the website, vedantalifeacademy.com. So if you have a question, why don't you just raise your hand? That's if you go to the I believe you just invite. So I'll just call in some people right now. So the first person I see is Purnima. Purnima, I'm gonna try to unmute you. Go ahead, Purnima.
Can Purnima, can she show her video?
Yeah,
I can't see her.
Come on. Purnima, go ahead and unmute yourself. Purnima, can you unmute yourself? All right, well, while she's trying to figure that out, then let's go to the next person. Priya, Parmesh, let's see. Priya, go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go.
Pranam Swamiji. I actually joined about like 15 minutes late, so I'm not sure if you already explained that, or I just wanted to ask, can you explain the meaning of the name Bhavatarini?
I think Bhavatarini means one who, deliverer from the world. I think Bhava means world, samsara, Tarini, one who takes you across the world.
Okay.
It gives you
Okay.
freedom from this samsara.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next one is Mira. Mira, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Swamiji, thank you so much for a really wonderful talk. My question is, there's also those beautiful passages that you talked about, especially about how Thakur relates to Mother Kali. So how do we make sense of, when he says sometimes that she looks at the Ganges and her long hair is flying back, and then she looks at Kolkata and then she looks at Ganges. What I don't understand is, what does that mean? Like, how can we make meaning out of something like that? That's sort of esoteric, but like, how do you grapple with something like that? Like, I can't do it intellectually or devotionally. How would you sort of talk about?
Yeah, I also, I'm like you. I wouldn't know what the Divine Mother is thinking. That's quite difficult to know. But I think that we could, what I was trying to explain earlier, that and we unfortunately that kokonoki ronge takoma, that mother has so many different moves, and we talked about that in Bengali, that proverb, kokono ma kokono me. So sometimes she's the Divine Mother of the universe, nirguna brahma, saguna brahma, and sometimes like Durga Puja, Durga comes back from Kailas. At that time, what is she? She's the daughter. So like that, Sri Ramakrishna, as we spoke about in the Kathamrita, it's mentioned that he never addressed her as apni or tumi. Every passage he always addressed her as tui, meaning like a small girl. So I honestly also don't know, because I don't know what she's thinking either. But your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, thank you. Next is Mara. Mara, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes. Oops. My power is going out. Let me quickly plug in. Thank you. Yes, this relates also to when you mentioned the Divine Mother and Holy Mother. Is that one and the same entity, person? Divine Mother, Holy Mother?
Oh, well, in that specific context, we were mentioning Sri Sharada Devi, the Holy Mother, Sri Ramakrishna's wife.
Yeah.
So, of course, he had the vision of, he saw her as the Divine Mother, and we, in our tradition, we think of her as the Divine Mother, Mother Kali, of course, Adi Shakti. But in addition, she was Sri Ramakrishna's wife as well. So when I was mentioning her, I was mentioning her in the context of Sri Ramakrishna's wife. They were married in 1859 in Jairambati. At that time, she was about, I think 5, 6 years old. And then she came to Kolkata she came to stay with him in 1872. So we were referring to that specific incident when she came to stay with him.
And with that, can I sneak in a request that maybe in the future there could be a course or a presentation on the Holy Mother?
Okay, that's you'd have to ask Swami Hari Ramananji. He's our guide.
Well, well, I think he heard me, but
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
But to answer your question also that Sri Ramakrishna did state that Holy Mother is Mother Kali. So there have been many mentions of Holy Mother being known as Mother Kali. The next one is Dhruva.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Pranam Swamiji, thank you for taking my
Namaste.
question. So I was a little late to the presentation, so I don't know if you mentioned this in passing or not, but I was just curious, what is the significance of having 12 Shiva temples next to each other in a row?
Yes, there's 12 Shiva temples because there's 12 Jyotirlingas in India. 12 Jyotirlingas that they said that this is like Swayambhu, that Shiva is not a man-made image, that Shiva himself appeared in these images. And if you see like there's stories behind each of these Jyotirlingas, which are mentioned in the Shiva Puranas. And so there's 12 Jyotirlingas in India. So these Shiva himself appeared. And in Dakshineshwar, each of these images, each of these temples is named after one of the Jyotirlingas.
Okay, and these Jyotirlingas are 12 are all throughout India, right?
They're all throughout India. Like
Okay.
like Vishwanath Kashi, that's one Jyotirlinga. There's
Okay,
12 Nageshwar. I mean, they're all over India.
right.
And
So, and as you said, they just manifested. So they're natural. They
They're
were
natural.
not created.
they're not man-made, they're natural.
Right.
And in the Shiva Puranas, it talks about how they came about. They came about because some devotee of Shiva was facing great difficulty. So he prayed to Shiva to come. And this devotee was so extraordinary in his devotion that Shiva decided to come and permanently establish himself there. So it's not only a tribute to Shiva, but also to that devotion of the devotee who called him. So that's in
And
the Shiva Purana.
You may want to mention also that one of the unique things about Dakshineshwar Temple it worships many manifestations of the divine, right? You have the Shakti, you have the Vishnu worship, Krishna,
Yes,
you
yeah,
have the
yes.
Shiva, Shaivite worship. So this
Right.
is unique at that time to have so many in one location.
Absolutely. In fact, we read in the Great Master how there was so much orthodoxy at that time. You know, even at that time that Shaivites would not talk to Vaishnavas. So there was like a real competition. They would not acknowledge each other. So Rani Rashmani was quite extraordinary, and also her thinking and bringing all these three elements together.
Okay, thank you. David, would you like to unmute yourself, David?
Yes. Who gave Ramakrishna his name?
Oh, I believe it was his parents. I actually don't. There's an article on this in Prabhupada Bharata, and I think that one of the arguments that it's actually a topic. they say his parents might have done it because his elder brothers Ram Kumar, Ramesh, Ramakrishna. So that's one. There's different explanations. He had a nickname Gadadhar, but most likely it was his parents that gave him the name Ramakrishna.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was like an initiation name or something, maybe from Totapuri or Bhairavi, or yeah.
Not to my knowledge. If anybody else has heard something else, they're welcome. Not to my knowledge, but
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. I'm just assuming it's his parents because they gave Ram Kumar, Rameshwar, and there's some articles. There's some articles written about this. You can look to our Prabhupada Bharata. I'm going to plug our magazine Prabhupada Bharata, started by Swami Vivekananda 125 years ago, and we have a great website. So please go there, and we have archives. You can also purchase our what is our archives. We have a disc of all the Prabhupada Bharata issues ever made, and it's a great research tool. And questions like this are available. Answers to questions like this are available there as well.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Next is Shumita. Shumita, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I am her husband, Kunal.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, pranam, Swamiji. So, we were asking if, I know it is Swami, the Swami's decision, but even in Dakshineshwar, we have so many stories as we read. I know it will help us when we read now to know where the places are. But if you could have another session in which there are two aspects. One is Dakshineshwar incidents, including you did not have time to go over where mother lived, that you showed Nahavad, but that lived, how she would, all of that would help, and also how the different events happened during the birthdays and stuff, how people gathered. And the other aspect is you have done so much research on some of the houses in Kolkata, like Balaram Babu's house and other places. There are all these incidents. If you could have another show, another presentation with those aspects. That's
Okay, that's up to we'll see. That's up
He
to Swami
actually has
Harinam.
material on that, so we'll think about doing another one. We didn't. So it's a good yes. We'll think about that. Maybe we can have that soon.
Yeah, and
I just,
also you were saying that you couldn't finish, and I'm very interested to know that what's in there that we.
okay.
Okay.
Just one other thing I wanted to add is that this video was an incredible video was done. You saw the first part of it. That was done by our Abhijit Maharaj of Advaita Ashram, and he did an incredible job. I just also wanted to thank him and my Advaita Ashram, our brother monks here. They really helped me a lot in this presentation, as well as these Devraj Thakumitra. He has a website, Holy Footprints. You can look at that website. He talks about, he's been doing research on this actually for a very long time, maybe like 20 years. And he's a devotee of the Ramakrishna Mountain Mission. And also one Dr. Ruchira Mitra, she made a video on Dakshineshwar, which is on YouTube. It's by the Hyderabad Ramakrishna Mountain Mission. You can take a look at that as well. She also helped me a lot. And so there's some, if you want to, I would just say, look at those things. And after the course, like we talked about last year in the pilgrimage mindset, when you get something new, we should then try to apply it in our lives. So the next thing would be to read these books now and try to, once we finish here, let's read these books and let's try to put ourselves in these different places in the gospel.
Next is Lali. Go ahead, Lali.
Namaste Maharaj, it is so nice to see you. I know we missed it last time, and it's just so delightful. Haven't been to at all to Calcutta, and I've just been waiting. I'm just wondering, how do you feel like when you discover there's something new, and how do you even manage to move forward?
Oh, that was I stayed in a Advaita ashram, and so actually Advaita ashram here, we don't have any puja. This tradition started by Swami Vivekananda. In Advaita ashram, we don't have any puja, any rituals here. So, and it's a really wonderful thing. Only in Kolkata as well as Mayavati, we're without any kind of puja, without any type of arati. So that's also a wonderful thing, because you get to really think about these high philosophical concepts and discuss them with your brother monks. So that's a really wonderful experience too. And probably but you also probably also want to also have some touch with Saguna Brahman. So for myself, when you discover these places, it's a great thrill, and it feeds you. That's all I can say. It's something that really, it touches the emotion actually, in a way that I think that the great thing about these pilgrimages, say that we're studying Advaita Vedanta, Raja Yoga, but even in them, there's like one sloka in the Kathopanishad, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha namedhaya na pahuna shutena. This last part, Yameva Esha Vinutetena labhyaha tasyesha atma vinute tanum swam. So one has to seek the Atman, and then the Atman reveals itself to he who seeks it. So I also take that concept of yearning emotion, even in the path of jnana, in the path of bhakti, in the path of Raja Yoga, that yearning to seek, that emotion has to be there. So one thing nice about visiting these places of pilgrimage, it automatically brings that emotion, which was what many of us have to struggle for. Actually, we hear a great talk on Advaita Vedanta, but we don't really, it takes a long time to digest. Why? Part of the reason what the Kathopanishad says is we're not really investing our emotion into it, our prana into it. Intellectually, yeah, that makes sense. We're dealing with the intellectual concepts. But really what the scriptures say, it's only when you could put your emotion into it that you can really move forward.
Swami Harinamananda, thank you ever so much for all that you're doing. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Guha. Mr. Guha, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, Pranam Maharaj. So the photos which you showed in the from British Library, they were colored. Who colored those?
Those were probably colored afterwards. Those were colored. They were originally in black and white. I don't know.
I mean, that is a lot of work. Whoever did that, that is a lot of work. And who found those pictures?
No, Frederick Fiebig, he's a photographer of those pictures.
He's saying but who discovered them? Because you said they're in the library. Did you?
No, I don't know. One of those pictures that's a commonly known picture, the one under construction, the temple under construction. But just last week I discovered those two other pictures. And when I discovered those two other pictures, I actually called Devraj Thakur Mitra. We had to confirm that it was actually Dakshineshwar, because there's a temple, there's two other temples it could be. One is this, in Barakpur, one Annapurna Temple is there. That was built of Shri Ramakrishna, Rani Rashmani's daughter, Jagadamba Dashi. She has a temple that Shri Ramakrishna attended the inauguration, I think in 1875. That's the Andapuna Temple. That looks exactly like Dakshineshwar. Another temple that's similar to that is the one right next to Bellarmont. When Bellarmont, 1 year Swami Vivekananda, they did not allow him to go inside the Dakshineshwar temple to celebrate Sri Ramakrishna's birthday because he had gone abroad, and also he brought some Western disciples with him. So they considered him impure at that time. So next to Bellarmont, they also chose a temple which looks quite similar to Dakshineshwar. So when I discovered these two new pictures, I was talking with Devraj Thakur Mitra, and we talked about it, and we were able to then see that, no, this is Dakshineshwar because of the trees. Those other temples only have 3 Shiva temples each. These two new photos showed 12 Shiva temples. And also the original photo that was known, those people that were in that photo, they were also in these two newly discovered photos.
Thank you. Okay, and next is Ritik. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Harimananji, as well. Thank you, Swamiji. I'd never seen all the divine forms of the mother that Thakur had worshipped, so this was really, really special. My question was, I was very intrigued to learn, as you said, that that Thakur's Japamala ended up in M's house. Is there a story to that? How did it end up in?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. No, that's a fascinating thing I didn't know, and I love the trivia questions also. Thank you very much for all of the knowledge.
Next is Kritika. Kritika, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Pranams Maharaj, you had shown the spice bag of Sri Ramakrishna, so I was wondering if there is any information about the kind of spices that he ate.
Oh, I think I don't actually know how to say the name, but those I don't know actually, but we have those. We have them every day in Advaita Ashram, but I don't know the names of them. Someone from the audience might be able to say. A Bengali in the audience might be able to say the difference.
No, I don't think it's Panchpuram.
No.
Anyways, yeah, so we don't know. We can maybe find out. Maybe you can search the next time you give a talk. Maybe you can talk about, bring that up if you can find that out. Okay, next is Shivani. Shivani, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, Pranam Maharaj, that was absolutely fascinating because I had the good fortune to visit about 4 years ago Dakshineshwar, and the map and everything made it come alive. The question I had very briefly is that it's your presentation is very timely because I just happened to be reading a book called Belur Math Pilgrimage by Swami Chidekananda. And I was wondering, is there something similar for Dakshineshwar to sort of back up and to reinforce what you have just spoken with us?
You could probably look on the web. You could look on YouTube.
I did. Okay, well, I'll look again. Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Shivani. The answers, many people are saying kebab chini for the spices, kebab chini.
Okay.
And Chab, I think Shivani, okay, so Chobi?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Pranam Maharaj, I was really delighted to see how the broken leg was for Krishna. I always knew that Ramakrishna mended the broken legs, but I did not have any idea where it was broken. But thanks for showing me exactly the footprint where the things happen and broken. I was really delighted to see that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last question is Prabir. Prabir, go ahead.
I heard another story about Sri Thakur's Japamala. So what I heard is that our Holy Mother gave it to Durga Ma, who was the second in line after Gauri Ma in the Sharadeshri Ashram. And I actually visited Sharadeshri Ashram. I was very close to Vandana Ma, who was in charge of Sharadeshri Ashram previously. And I asked them, and they said that was true. So I don't know. I just brought up this, and you probably know the better answer.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prabir. And someone just mentioned there's a book called Ramakrishna's Dakshineshwar to give you more information also about the Dakshineshwar experience. Ramakrishna's Dakshineshwar. So I think with this, we're going to conclude. Everybody, a lot of people are requesting for another Swami to continue. He does have, he didn't talk about Balor Mandir's house. There's many other places. So maybe we can have another one before we close off. Maybe sometime, I can see, maybe sometime next week, I'll talk to Swami Chidekananda and we'll see what we can do. All right, Swami Chidekananda, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation and for all your research. If you have a chance, he has written, I think, 7 articles on this in Vedanta Keshari. What's the articles called basically?
I think it's Sri Ramakrishna and the Pilgrimage Mindset. I think from last year, January to December, almost 12 articles are there in Vedanta Keshari. And one thing you can put just at the end, you can, again, I'm going to plug this before we sign off. Just if you go to our website, if you're interested, we're Prabhupada Bharata, again, it's 125th campaign. And our number, I don't know if you have a link, you could maybe send a link to that. If anyone's interested to subscribe, you can send the link there as well.
Oh, if you do another presentation, maybe we can send a link out during that time. Okay, and again, people are asking, yes, we're going to hopefully put this on our Vedanta Life Academy. That's going to be and then also we'll have it on YouTube as well. So it'll take maybe a few days. All right. So I want to thank everyone so much for coming on this pilgrimage. I want to thank Swami Chidekananda Maharaj for taking us on this pilgrimage. And would you like to end us off with a chant?
Sure. Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagat Gurum Pada Padme Tvayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur.
Thank you, Swami. Thank you, everyone. We've had a nice time in the Vedanta Life Academy bringing all these things, and we appreciate you coming.